What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the pod. Today, I'm your host,
Christian,
Jay,
and Ryan.
and today we're gonna come at you with a topic that's kind of connected to the last times. The last time we talked about having difficult conversations, and today we're gonna talk about setting healthy boundaries. So, anybody that wants to go ahead and take that off my hands, go ahead.
I got you. I think setting boundaries for yourself is probably one of the most important things you could do for your life. Because if you don't have boundaries for yourself and you're not allowing yourself to kind of like, let's say that you're just going about your life, but you're just allowing other people to just freely enter your life without even knowing them, what they're about, what their intentions are for your life. Mm-hmm. So now you're letting all these people into your life without having any boundaries for yourself. So if you're not working off of boundaries, you're not really having guidelines and rules for where you want to go for yourself. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard to move in life without having boundaries.
I think it makes a huge difference on if you're an introvert or an extrovert too. Because I really think, like, people I think introverts are just shy. That's not really what it means. Being an introvert just means, like, it really is more of an energy thing. So, like, an introvert is more like you can go out to a party and not be shy. You can talk to everybody, but you might want to leave after, like, 2 hours. Like, it just kind of overstimulates your sense of, like, wanting people around you. Where an extrovert can handle it better. You know, they constantly want people around them. But you got to watch who you let into those boundaries, because if even as an extrovert, even if you can handle it more, if you just let them come in whenever, it can totally throw you off your schedule that you want to maintain and things you're trying to get done and a mindset you're trying to keep. So yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the only difference between an extrovert and an introvert really is just how they handle social situations, right? And it's not that one handles them better than the other necessarily. It's more that I heard the best analogy for introverts versus extroverts is that say you start with coins, right? An introvert starts with 5 coins, right? Or however many coins, and by the end of the day they're down to however many coins, you know? So they need to be by themselves in order to get more coins, right?
Right.
So for example, an extrovert though starts the day with 0 coins, maybe, or maybe 1. But the more they talk to people, the more conversations they have, the more coins they get, the more energy they get.
Right.
So, I mean, it's all about how you handle the social situations. And I don't like the stigma behind introverts. A lot of people, they have a very negative stigma of introverts just because a lot of people, they feel like they're just not as socially capable. Engaged, all that. Like, and they just feel like an extrovert might be more socially capable than an introvert. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's all about priorities.
Right.
Like an introvert has different priorities than an extrovert. It's not... Sure. Their priorities don't include, talking to everybody and seeing what everybody's about. It's more like, and I feel like a lot of times introverts are genuinely some of the smartest people on earth.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think when also, like how we were talking about boundaries earlier, I think when you look at a boundary, it really refers to a limit. Because, we all have limits in our life. There's certain points in our life that we won't go past. Like,
absolutely.
When it comes to drinking, people have certain limits.
Some people don't.
So when you look at your life, you have certain limits for your life that you won't go past. Yeah. So if you know that you're doing something a certain way and you know that has to get done a certain way, you'll do it up to that limit that you'll allow for yourself. So like we were talking about earlier, introverts and extroverts. An introvert will do something a certain way and will make sure that it gets done a certain way. An extrovert will do it in a certain way, but they'll still do it to their limit. Everybody has a limit and a cap on their life.
Absolutely. And let me ask you a follow-up question to what you're saying. Because since you referred to these boundaries as limits, don't you think that it's somewhat important in some situations to go exceed your limits maybe?
Definitely. It really refers to the situation that you're in. But I think that if you're trying to exceed limits, it depends on how far you want to go.
It also depends on what it is, right?
Yeah, it depends on where it is, what you're doing, and how far you want to go with it. But if there is a limit for it and you think that you could push that limit, let's say it's the gym. You want to push, you want to keep going up in the weight. But sometimes there's a certain limit that you may hurt yourself. Yeah. So you have to know how far you're able to go within that range.
Okay.
And to what you're saying too, like when it comes to like different situations of the range, like you're 100% like spot on. Like an introvert isn't like because they're introverted, not going to push themselves in the gym, but they might not, like I was saying, at like a party, want to push themselves past like talking to this many people. Like that genuinely might just be like something that's draining versus like a challenge. You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely. And I'm sorry, you were about to say something, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to ask you guys, since we're talking about all these limits and stuff like that, I think we haven't really answered the question that we really wanted to ask and that we really want to find the answer to, and that's, how does one set healthy limits? You know what I mean? Healthy boundaries.
Healthy boundaries.
Where do you start?
I think when you want to set healthy boundaries for yourself, whether it refers to as friends or just goals in your daily life, I think you have to understand yourself first and know what you like, what you're trying to go for, and what you're trying to do in your life first. Have a goal, have a plan, set, have a vision, like we said.
What after that?
And then after that, I think it's time for you to start exploring things, getting your feet into things and trying to find out what you like, what you know you could do, what you know you could do well. And then once you get past that stage, like you said, we're talking about introverts and extroverts. Sometimes you'll find people that you're willing to let in, creating a circle for yourself. Having people that are higher than you, having people that are lower than you, so you have a well-balanced team, well-balanced people around you. So that I think when you have healthy limits like that, you understand who to let in and not who to, let in.
Yeah, so you gotta be out there and you do that trial and error, because you're not gonna just know off bat.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think a lot of people do. They like try to act like, oh, I know what's good for me, and then somebody turns out to be a snake. It just happens. And then he sent me something this morning that's like so true. Like if you only focus on like your own happiness, you'll never find it. But if you focus on like the people's happiness around you as well as yourselves, you find it. And I think that's extremely true.
Yeah,
because absolutely. I know through just like the people around me and stuff, like I think I've mentioned on here before, I would like to do professional dog training like while we're getting this thing off the ground. And yeah, like I wouldn't have figured that out by myself because my mom's allergic to dogs. So we don't have a dog. Like, I pretty much learned it through, like, the babysitting and side jobs I do because I got to meet a million other dogs and play with them and train them and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, you know what? Like, I love this.
This is something I like. This is something I think I can see myself doing.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. I think that's crucial. And back to our point about, like, introverts, extroverts, whatever, I think that what you guys will notice, right, if you really sit there and pay attention on the interactions that you have on a daily basis, you'll start to understand and you'll realize that when you talk to certain people, they make you feel a certain way. Right. Right? Mm-hmm. And it depends on a million different factors. You can measure it in any way that you like. Mm-hmm. Eye contact, you can measure it in the vocal tone, the volume, the body language. You can measure it in any number of ways and any combination of those ways, right? Mm-hmm. But what you'll actually notice at the end of the day, at the end of the conversation, when everything is said and done, you'll notice that conversation made you feel a certain way. Mm-hmm. And chances are, if that conversation wasn't anything important, then it's not really going to make you feel good about that conversation that you just had. Right. And what you'll notice also is that some people just, every time you hang out with them, they just exude this energy, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just like, when you're done hanging out with them, you're energized. So I feel like it depends on who you hang out with, and that goes back to the point that I was really trying to make, and that's that introvert and extrovert, I feel like anybody is a combination of the two depending on who they're talking to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Even the most introverted people, if they're talking to somebody that they like, somebody that they feel safe around, somebody that they trust, maybe another introvert, maybe an extrovert, whatever, they can all be the other or as much of the other as possible.
Well, actually, I do kind of want to correct that a little bit, because that's what I was saying earlier. There's like a whole... Being introverted is not being shy. Right. My point is you can't flip. That's actually not a thing. So, like, my point is you can't flip, but you could talk to somebody who's going to bring the social out of you, even if you're an introvert. That's what my point was, is like, I'm totally introverted, but I'm not shy. Right. I'll talk to whoever. My difference is after 2-3 hours, I might not want to go see anybody else.
Right.
I might want to go home and chill by myself and vibe that energy. Because I've had my friend James say that to me too, because he's a huge extrovert, and it's a misconception. So I'm actually really glad, like, in a sense, you said that, because I'm going to bring it up in the point. It's not, like, if you say somebody, oh, that brought the extrovert out of them. It's not how it works. It is purely, like, you brought the social out of that person.
Okay.
Because you made them feel comfortable in like, that sense. Like, I will admit introverts definitely have a tendency to be a bit more shy because they are to themselves more. So if they're not as comfortable, they don't want to, like, spew everything out.
Yeah.
But I do want to say that to people. If you're shy, don't just think you're an introvert.
Yeah.
Because you can go do whatever you want.
Right.
Just feel your energy around other people. That's the only thing I wanted to clarify.
And I think it's easier for people to let their energy go to certain places, especially when people are trustworthy. I think when you have a group of people that you understand and you know that you share similarities and you can understand them better, it's easier to let go of energy that you have. Because it's harder to put energy into things that you know you don't like necessarily.
Yeah,
or you don't want to do necessarily. So I think some people will consume their energy and give it into places where they know that they can benefit from it the most. I'm not going to put my energy into things that I know are not going to benefit me. There's no point.
Yeah.
What am I wasting time for if I know that I'm not going to gain nothing back from it? So I think when we're talking about being introverted and extroverted, like, I think it's really how the mindset affects it, because people know what they like or what they don't like to do. So if you can understand reasons and motivations behind it, it's easier to understand why people act a certain way.
Right.
So if you understand that, look, hey, this person likes to be by themselves. They like to kind of chill and stay by themselves. And then they do have a time where they come out and they have a little bit of a social life. Yeah. And that's perfectly fine. Other people need social interaction to survive. That's just how some people are made.
And some people need social isolation.
Right. Some people need social isolation, and some people need that interaction with people to keep their day going, to keep that energy flowing.
Yeah.
So if you can understand reasons and motivations behind why people do things, it makes it completely easier to kind of get a whole glimpse of what their life is like on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I also want to go back to ask you this. I know you said how they bring out the social aspects of some people. Or any of you guys, if you feel like you have an answer to this. Don't you feel that there is a way for you to actually change how introverted or extroverted that you are in general? Like, rather than depending on the people that you're around?
That is a great question, actually. So I think it's definitely possible to work on, because I think the reason introverted gets or introverts gets a, like, negative outcome. Yeah. It's like, oh, you're introverted, you're shy. No, like, it can actually go to the exact opposite on the extrovert side. So what's your problem? Oh, you're an extrovert, but you're too extroverted. You have so many friends in your circle who you're not sure if they're really your friends
or not. Yeah.
That's the flip of it, but that doesn't get talked about. It's just like, oh, introvert, shy, extrovert's the cool person.
Yeah.
It's not how it works. An extrovert can be, unfortunately, really lame, and that's why a lot of them build up, and then you don't know who's your real friend sometimes, and that's where the mix gets on both. I think it absolutely, to what Chris is saying, is possible to work on, because you could start learning things and be the biggest extrovert in your life and be like, hold on, wait a minute.
Was it worth it?
This wasn't worth it. You start to become a little more introverted, but I still think you have that extrovertedness where you can handle more.
I think it's like, to go along with what you're saying, I think it's learning how to sometimes step outside of your comfort zone in order to, I guess, an introvert to try to be extroverted, learning how to step outside your comfort zone.
And build up that tolerance to less people or more people, whatever way you're trying to go.
Okay, well, say about the other end of the spectrum, because I think that's important to talk about as well. Say there's an extrovert that thinks maybe his life would benefit more if he was a little more introverted. And sometimes that does happen. Sometimes I would consider myself somewhere in between, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there are some times where I feel like I'm being too extroverted, and there's some times where I feel like I'm being too introverted. So we talked about maybe being too introverted, and you maybe want to become more extroverted. But what about the other end of the spectrum?
I think for me personally, I think I could say that I'm in the middle, because there are times where I think I do need to be by myself and understand that I have to be alone at certain points in my life. And there's points where you have to learn how to be by yourself, how to think about yourself, reflect, do all of that. So you have to understand how to be alone for a certain point in your life. And then I think once you're able to do that, it makes it easier for you to go outside and just be, like we say, like an extrovert. Talk to people, have social interaction. So I think if you understand how to be by yourself first, and then you can get to that point of having social interaction, placing your energy at certain points with different types of people, because also where you exert your energy, you'll get a certain energy back. Yes, so if you're not 100%. Ready to take in that energy, then I don't think you're really fully to be what we call an extrovert. If you're not really ready to go out and take in that energy. Because if you're giving energy, you're going to get energy back.
Right. And there's times where less is more in terms of social interaction. Like, the less you say, the better the outcome, really. Because I've heard this. You ever heard the quote where it's like, it's better to shut your mouth and be perceived as a fool than to open your mouth and leave no doubt?
Yeah, you know what? That man, that's huge. Cause it really is. It's all mind games. Life. It really is. You know, if people think you're something stupid, maybe on that side, they expect less. So then you overperform in their head, in
their mind. Yeah.
But when you let it all out, now you're underperforming in their head, because they're like, "Oh, this guy was really smart, but he's not."
Where he ultimately should be.
Yeah, it 100%. And with that too, I want to go back to like what you were just saying about like how you need to like build up almost to being an extrovert if you're on the introverted side. It's 100%, man. Like, everything is foundation. If you don't have that self-awareness and self-love, you can't go out and freaking try and get other people's opinion on you. You're gonna kill yourself.
Right.
I mean that to the fullest, because look at our society right now. Like, we have a lot of Instagram and stuff like that where people are 15, they don't love themselves fully yet because they don't know.
They're still developing. They're still trying to figure out who they are, figure out their identity.
And you got people commenting you ugly or whatever. Like, that's stupid. Or they're screenshotting.
And that's an issue in today's world, because we're always so quick to snap at somebody, comment on somebody, just because what we see on the outside. Like, we're always so quick to say something because we don't know somebody's situation. You never, like, I could look at Jay. I could be like, yo, who is this guy? Not
what?
Who? I could be like, who the heck is this guy? I could be like, he ain't got no drip. He's rocking nothing. Not knowing anything about him. But that could just be something wrong with me. Because there could be something on the inside that I'm not willing to accept. Right. My pride is getting in the way of accepting, okay, I have flaws. Yeah. So now my reaction is to go look at somebody else and try to criticize flaws that I think that they have.
You know what it is?
The projection of
it's the ego.
Bullshit.
That's what it is.
It's a huge ego thing.
The ego takes hits when you can't accept something about yourself. Huge hits. So the ego wants you to focus on what everybody else has. So it can distract you from feeling bad about what you got going on. Right? And so the problem is, like you said, in terms of social media, in terms of like all these people that just want to hate, in terms of even fake friends, things like that. What you'll find is that these people, they have something about themselves that they can't accept.
Right.
I've been there. We've all been there.
We've all been there. I can personally say that I've done it. Like,
exactly. Yeah. Like, but the ego wants you to focus on everybody else. Is the basic point that I'm trying to make. And that's a big problem. And that's why the world is the way it is.
Right.
That's why the world is the way it is. Because they sit from the sidelines laughing and mocking and making fun of everybody else because they're not perfect. When deep down they really understand that nobody's perfect. And everybody knows that. We've been saying it we've been learning that. We've been hearing that since, we were in kindergarten. Life isn't fair. Nobody's perfect. Things like that. My 3rd grade teacher is like, none of you are special, all right? None of you. She just sit there, and I'll tell you what, like, as brutal as that is, that is something that needs to be heard by some people.
You have to make yourself special, man. You don't just get born it in a sense.
Yeah, because, I said that wrong. Because that is wrong to say to kids. You shouldn't say there and say that nobody's special.
I'm with it if it's said right. It's a moral building. I'm low-key with it in a sense. If you say it correctly, if you just get in kids' faces, like, you ain't gonna be shit. That's one thing. But
it's a different thing. But
everybody's unique. Everybody's the same, but everybody's unique.
Right.
Is the biggest thing. So in a way, everybody does have their special qualities about them. So I think it is detrimental to sit there, especially 3rd graders, dude. Like, they're just getting the idea of
it
being
could maybe
themselves.
be held off later.
It's
not that nobody's special. It's just It's the message does need to be conveyed that, like, you can't think you God and everybody else around you is
irregular.
Yeah,
you gotta have the mindset.
You got your own abilities. That's special. Great.
You gotta have the mindset.
Nobody's good at everything.
We a team here.
Right. That's huge.
We all just human. We beat the wolves and the bears and all that crap. We don't need to
I
be
think
mean to
that's
each
a
other.
huge point that you just made there. And what's really difficult about that is really just understanding in the core of your soul that there's going to be things that somebody else is better than you at.
Right. Oh, always.
But on the other end of the spectrum, there's always going to be something that you're better than that same person at.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. You got to know your strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, maybe Christian's better than me at basketball. Very true. He's much better than me at basketball. No doubt about it. But maybe I'm better than him at some other regard.
Like chess.
Like chess.
Chess.
Like chess.
I know that Chris is way better than me at chess. I'll say it 100% down. And we could both go back and forth. We all have different strengths and weaknesses that we have to acknowledge within ourselves. Because everybody is unique. Everybody has certain things that they could do and know they could do backwards, forwards, any way that it could be possibly done. There's always something somebody will do better than you. And we know that. And like we said earlier, it's an ego thing when you can't accept that somebody can do something better than you. Yeah. Like, I know there's probably millions of people out there that can lift way more weight than I can in the gym. And I know that. I accept that. But there's more people. There's people that I can lift more than.
Absolutely.
There's peers that I know I can just outlive because of my strength, because of my size. So it's kind of a negative thing for you to say that you don't really have these flaws that you know that you have inside of yourself if you can't accept that.
Now, I'll tell you what, and that is so difficult. Yeah, absolutely. And that is such a difficult position to be in. You know what I mean? It is so difficult to be in the position where you have something and you can't accept that someone might be better than you at.
It's a hard thing. It's really a hard thing to go through, especially when you're in that phase.
It's difficult.
It's difficult to get out of. And I think that's when, like we said earlier, having limits, having boundaries. When you have limits for yourself and you have boundaries for yourself, it makes it easier for you to realize that, okay, other people do things better than me. So I know that my limit is my limit. I have it set for my life. Yeah. So no matter what I do in my life, there's always a limit for myself. And I know that I can push the limit and the limit can keep going up for myself. But there's a certain point that I can't cross because if I cross it, I'm entering something dangerous for my life.
Yeah, there's certain things I feel like life really sets up where it's like
you peak out.
You do in a sense because like you're not. Well, we were just saying with like everybody's special in their own sense. Like there's like I feel like life. I'm not like a believer in like fate. Like the second you're born, like your life's just planned out. But I am a believer in like things happen for reasons and like you know you have a choice more. Like your fate might have a couple endings, but it's really on you to pick it.
Create
kind
decisions.
of thing. Yeah. So yeah, like if you can't come to terms with that. That's why I think like a lot of sports players, I think that's what really separates the pros. Like I don't think a lot of times genuinely being a pro versus being a G League player is your genuine physical ability. It's like the ability to master what you were saying, like that ego of like if you look at like the best of the best, they still have problems with their ego, but they've mastered it in a way most can't.
Right.
Where it's like, I know he's better than me, but I can never accept that. Like, I have to hit the gym. I have to, and that's like, I guess, the positive way to take it out in a sense.
And like I said,
but
athletes, because that was a great point to bring up with athletes, because when we look at different athletes, we can say, okay, this was their peak season. This is when they were at the highest of their ability. And then when you said G League players, it's not that G League players aren't good. Yeah. They're still, if they were to go to any gym across the country, any park, any country, they would still slap people off the map.
Yeah.
It's just that it's G League players are just only a step down from the athletes. The NBA level athletes. It's only a certain point to where they could get in the NBA because they're at that ability. They just haven't reached that full potential yet.
Yeah.
You see most rookies there. You see even old NBA vets that are trying to come back. They go to the G League first, play for a G League team, and then they come back. Mm-hmm. So it's only that certain phase that you have to go through where you're developing. Yeah. You're in the process. You're going through like a G League. Maybe it's a limit. Maybe some people say, I'm good with being right here. And their ego is okay with that.
Yeah.
So that's that limit right there. That's an example of having a limit, having a boundary right there.
Yeah,
that's a perfect
why
example.
You got to master that.
And with that being said, I'm super glad that we connected that back to the topic at hand, which we do that almost every pod. If you guys haven't noticed,
everything is everything. Yeah.
Everything is everything. Man.
If you haven't noticed yet, you'll notice. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for coming out.
Of course.
If you guys enjoyed the content, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment what you want us to talk about, anything like that. We'd be super glad to help you out with any problems that you have. You could always hit any one of us up, like always.
Yes, sir.
And
we do this for fun, for real, not just
ready.
Absolutely, yo. One of these days, you gotta hit one of them rage rooms, bro. We were talking about that.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna go to a rage room. We're gonna talk about it on one of the pods coming up. All right, so
stay
tuned
we're gonna go
for that.
smash a bunch of crap.
Let's go.
See you next time.